You're listening to The Western Rookie, a hunting podcast full of tips, tricks, and strategies from seasoned Western hunters. There are plenty of opportunities out there. We just need to learn how to take on the challenges.
Hunting is completely different up there.
I've harvested 26 big game animals.
You can fool their eyes, but you can't fool their nose.
300 yards back to the road turned into 3 miles back the other way.
It's always cool seeing new hunters go and harvest an animal.
I don't know what to expect.
If there's anybody I want in the woods with me, it'll be you.
Welcome back to another episode of the Western Rookie Podcast, brought to you by GOHUNT. I'm your host, Brian Krebs, and today I have Justin Harris on the podcast, and we are already getting into it, talking some shed hunting, because, of course, I have the shed wall as my backdrop, and shed hunting is what originally brought me to Justin's page and had him on the podcast. So how are you doing today, Justin?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing good. We have the weirdest weather pattern I've ever had for December. So I'm from Minnesota. Typically by like middle of November, it starts getting cold, like below freezing, especially at night, mostly during the day. And we're, 10 days out from Christmas. It's 47 degrees. It's rain. The grass is still green. We haven't had any amount of snow so far. Like, hunting has been terrible. I haven't seen a deer in the last like 2 weeks worth of sits.
Yeah, it's
just
been
bad.
about the same here, man. We're sitting about 20 degrees, but no snow. It's been a weird year for sure.
Well, at least 20 degrees is like cold enough to get deer movement. I don't know. Are your seasons are probably starting to get wrapped up in Idaho,
Yeah,
right?
they are. Yep.
Yeah. So we still have the archery season going on, and I would like to get another doe or two for the freezer. And it's just so warm. Like, all of our pictures are like, we got cell cams on 3 different farms, and we'll get maybe one twilight picture a day, and then everything else is at night because it's so warm. I mean,
That's crazy.
We're 25 degrees above average temps right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird year for sure.
I jinxed everyone in the state of Minnesota because we bought the farm, and I went ahead and bought a big, like a 7-foot snowblower for my tractor. Got a new tractor this year, got a new snowblower. I'm like, I'm ready. It's probably not long by Idaho standards, but for Minnesota, it's a pretty long driveway. We got like a 500-foot driveway. And I had like the little push, snowblower before that. And I'm like, and the tires were flat. And I'm like, all right,
This isn't working out.
No, I bought that, and I hooked it up and turned it on for fun, but we haven't had any snow. So I'm guessing this winter we won't get any snow because I went ahead and, prepared for it for once.
Sure, you're itching just to try your new toy, huh?
Pretty much. I mean, I got pallet forks. I ordered some pallet forks. I'm excited to try those out too. It's fun.
Yeah.
Like, when we moved to we were renting while my wife was finishing residency, and so like toys, what we were renting was like, oh, I'm gonna get like a new gun, or I'm gonna get like a new, fishing rod, or like small stuff, right? Now toys for me are like, I want to get a 20-foot trailer, I'm gonna get a tractor, I'm gonna get a 7-foot snowblower, a pallet. Like, I went and picked up one of those like big 275-gallon totes for like water, like chemical comes in. And I just cut it apart. We've been throwing firewood in it, and like just random stuff that I never thought I would start buying this soon. Like, I've always dreamed about owning land. I just figured it would take 10 more years.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
No, it's been fun. But yeah, I'm like I want to go ice fishing, and it's like raining. Like, our lakes are thawing. They're breaking open again. So
we're just barely getting to that spot. We have about 3-4 inches there. I got some buddies that have been going out, and I'm like, I'll wait till it's about inch or two more. 3-4 inches a little too sketch for myself, but
I think I'm just gonna go get a set of the picks, that wear on your neck.
Yeah.
And if you fall through, you can like crawl out. And I don't know, big person. I'm gonna float. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna float. So I might just rip it. I mean, the lake that I want to fish is only like 7 feet deep. But it's getting me looking forward to shed season. Now, I've been shed hunting. 2015 was the first year I started shed hunting, and it was the first year, like 2014, the fall, or like the hunting season of 2014 was like the first year we really started running cameras on our whitetail farms and like getting pictures and following bucks. And then shed season comes around, and we had this one buck, and I wanted to find his antler. He had a sticker on the right side, heavy 5-point with a kicker, and I didn't know a thing about shed hunting, but I knew this guy. He was a cousin of a cousin, and he also hunts the family farm, and he finds a lot of them. So I'm like, hey, you want to go shed? Like, we can hunt your place, my place. I just want to learn. So we go out shed hunting together. Terrible success. His dog found like one little one, and he kept it, obviously, because that's like shed culture, right? Even though it was on our farm, and I didn't know that, so I was a little like upset at first. I'm like, what do you mean that you're keeping it? Like, you don't even care. Like, this is a small antler for you. But I just didn't understand like shed etiquette at the time.
Yeah.
And so I went home. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna teach my 8-year-old dog overnight how to find shed antlers. I took a couple cutoffs and hid them in the living room, and he'd like watch me hide them and then go over and like pick them up and chew on them. I'm like, perfect, we're golden. Went
Like
up the
that,
next morning to the other side of the farm, and we're walking this 4-acre food plot of turnips, and all of a sudden I hear this little ting, and I look down, and his tooth must have hit the antler, but you can't see it, it's on the other side, but it's one of the top wire. I have 10 of my favorite whitetail sheds on the top wire, and it's over there. And so I was like hooked. I picked that one antler up, and it just instantly addicted. And then I went.
All it takes is one.
It took me like 5 years to have a good season, I think. No, 3 years. I mean, I found like 1, and then 0, and then 2, and then like 2. And then I started like realizing like, oh, our farm isn't a good shed farm. Like, if I want to find antlers, I have to travel. And that was really, I mean, that's
I don't
like,
know how it is
that's
out
like
there,
a common sense for you. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have to drive 40 miles to find some shed. You know what I mean? Because it's the
I'm kind of
mountains.
lucky around here. I have the mountains right outside my back door here. So I'm kind of blessed at where I'm at. I mean, obviously I do some traveling and stuff, but
you understand probably more so than like Midwest whitetail guys, where like you have to find them, like you have to scout them. Like, it's a mountain, like you can't just, they're not everywhere. You know what I mean? And so like for whitetail guys, like, oh, I'm going to shed hunt our own farm. Well, if they're not on your farm, they're not on your farm. Like, you're not going to find them where they aren't. And so then I started traveling a lot and doing like 100-mile years, which isn't a lot for the mountains, but it's a lot when you're hunting 40s and 80s, you know, to put on 100 miles. And I've been wanting like heavier and heavier winters. I've been finding that like the more brutal the winter is, the better the shed hunting is in the spring.
Yeah, it definitely pushed them down more for sure. I mean, it's a tough call, you know, for animal health and the shed. It's
right, it is
a tough place there.
Like, well, I'm not talking like last winter, like 600 inches of snow in Utah. Bad. That's bad. I'm talking for like Minnesota to have like 2-3 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Like lots of snowfall. The temps don't matter to me at all.
Yeah.
But when we get that snowfall, it pushes all the deer like right to the food, and they just squat there the entire winter.
Yeah.
So when shed season comes, it's like, it's remarkably obvious where the deer were and where they weren't, more specifically. So it's like, if you're not seeing areas that are flat packed with tracks, like, don't waste your time. And then all the antlers are in one spot. But then it's kind of like, if you're hunting public, then you're like, everyone else can do the same thing and find them just as fast. So it's a double-edged sword. But I find like winters like this, like, I think it's gonna be, if we don't get any snow, it's gonna be tough, because these, like, it's flat. Like, deer don't come down. There is no snow up high pushing them down. They can go wherever they want. They can find food wherever they want. You can't see their tracks. Like, I think it's gonna be really hard to shed hunt if we don't get some snow.
I think we're gonna have the same problem here. I was actually thinking about that the other day. I was like, you know, kind of mark it off list and where areas I want to go check. And I'm like, man, it might be really tough this year. Totally opposite of last year. I mean, last year it was tough too, because we had so much snow, you know, being down here in southern Idaho. All the animals were down in the farmer's field and stuff. So, I mean, it made it like tough there.
But once you get, like, if you found access or you found that spot in public, like, then it was probably pretty easy, because they were all in one spot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Last year I went to New Mexico with a buddy, 2 buddies actually, and a camera guy, Chris, who was the best camera. He was just hilarious. He was a great camera guy. So we brought this camera. I have to tell the story. So it's me and Dan Matthews, who used to host the podcast, and a podcast guest, Stephen Walker, we've had on a couple times. And he invites us down, super nice guy. And so Dan wants to start like YouTubing, like full on YouTube episodes. So he has a buddy that wants to start filming. like being a photographer. And they're like, oh,
Mhm.
perfect. Like, I'll pay for your trip. We'll come down, hop in the truck. Like, we're going anyway. So great. We tell Chris. And Dan doesn't tell Chris anything about like what shed hunting's like, what we need, what the temperatures are. And well, to be fair, we don't really know where we're going, because Steven's like, yeah, we might go to Arizona, we might go to Colorado, we might go to New Mexico, we'll see. And we're like, all right, whatever. So Chris is like, hey, what do I need? And Dan's like, I don't really know, so throw some stuff in. Well, then we start talking about shed hunting on the way out, and how like, yeah, I start out in North Dakota, and typically it's like 6 below, and I'm rocking, I use snowshoes all the time. Like I've found like 100 of those antlers I've found on snowshoes.
Mhm.
And so Chris is in the back seat like, damn, snowshoes for shed hunting? Like, I didn't bring snowshoes. And then I'm talking about,
They're a
yeah,
game
like usually
changer.
I'm usually camping out, and I've camped down to like 15 below before on shed trips. And Chris is like, damn, 15 like he's in the backseat thinking to himself, like, he told after the story, he's like,
This
I
is
was
some
thinking to
serious
myself,
stuff.
like, shit, yeah, like 15 I brought like a Mickey Mouse sleeping bag.
Yeah.
And then I'm showing him pictures, and it's just me with like a frosty beard, cold as hell.
Yeah.
And the dog is like, you can see the breath coming out of the dog in the picture, and he's like, damn, that looks cold. Well, then we get to camp, and I throw out my sleeping bag, and I only have one sleeping bag. I only have a 0 degree. That's I use for everything. If it's hot, I unzip it and use it as a blanket. And so I throw out the sleeping bag that's like this big, and Chris finally breaks up. He's like, did you guys not tell me it's going to be like 0 degrees? Like, his sleeping bag's bigger than all the clothes I brought. And so we're like, I was like, well, no, to be fair, that's my only sleeping bag, but we didn't, I don't know. And so like Chris was stuffing sleeping bags inside of sleeping bags and going to sleep with like all of his clothes on. And he's from Missouri. Like, he's not used to being cold, and it got pretty chilly at night down there. And so it was just hilarious. Like, he went into this knowing literally nothing about shed hunting. And we didn't tell him anything either. He just hopped in the truck.
Had to learn the hard way, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the days were nice, and he figured, like, he's like, I got my system down now. I got a blanket. But yeah, he didn't have the sleeping bags that like I had. But
yeah,
that was the same year I was shed hunting like 5 below in North Dakota just a couple months earlier, because they drop early. Like, it's goofy. They drop early in the north, because it's like the winters are so bad sometimes.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that one. But dude, that's funny that you say that though, because we all have had an experience like that when it's like, I did not bring enough stuff. Why did nobody tell me this?
Yeah, why did nobody tell me? Yeah, it was just hilarious, because he thinks we're going down to like Mexico or like New Mexico, but like, oh, it should be warm. Like, that's on the southern
that's your
border.
first thought.
Yeah. I think it snowed one morning. Yeah, so yeah, it was a fun trip for sure. But yeah, it was kind of funny for Chris, because he had no clue what he was getting himself into. But yeah, no, I'm really excited. So that's where I was saying last year I went to New Mexico. I'd love to get something planned this year, because we had fun and we found good elk sheds. But that one thing that I'm looking forward to is getting in on like a good mule deer spot and finding like a nice match set mule deer.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to turn down a nice match set of elk either, but like a front range type, like Montana, Wyoming style, like front range hunt, because I don't know why. I don't know what it is about a mule deer set. And maybe it's just because I've done the whitetail stuff. Like, you probably the opposite. Like, man, I'd love to find like a good whitetail spot and scoop up some whitetail sheds. But for me, it's like mule deer and elk are the next. Like, I'm obviously going to do the whitetail stuff, but it's so freaking hard when you come from the Midwest to like throw a dart at the map out west. You can't scout. You can't like see where they're herding up in February and then come back in May. Like, you just got to like roll the dice sometimes, and it's kind of hard to justify a trip out. Yeah, it's kind of hard to justify like a 2-day trip out there just to get there and not know where you're going. So I think I'm gonna just bounce around. Just like, hey, if we don't find any, we don't find any. We're just camping out. Nothing else to do in May. But that's the goal, is to try to find like a big mule deer shed this year.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely found my fair share of nice mule deer sheds. I'm a mule deer guy through and through. That is my cup of tea.
Yeah, like hunting too. Then is that what you're saying?
I mean, So that's a tough one with hunting because mule deer hunting, I grew up mule deer hunting, so it has a special
Oh,
place in my heart, you know?
yeah.
So I'm torn between elk hunting and mule deer hunting. But for sheds, it's definitely mule deer for sure.
How come? What is it about a mule deer shed that gets you more excited than an elk shed?
The characteristic, every mule deer shed is different, whether it be
Oh,
something small. Elk sheds, you found a 5 point, it's a 5 point. You found a 6 point, 6 point. Once in a while, you'll have, a little kicker, a devil tine or something. But I think it's just the difference in every single mule deer shed that gets me. You
okay.
never know what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Depending on where you are, it's probably easier to like scoop up a bunch of mule deer sheds in a day too. It
Oh,
seems
for
like the
sure.
elk sheds can be harder to like put up big numbers,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would
which
definitely agree with that. I just recently started getting into elk shed hunting. I probably only have 15, 20-ish, somewhere right around there.
okay,
I
that's still a lot. I think I'm at like five.
see, and I don't think it's a lot. I go to, friends' house
Wow.
and they got them everywhere, and I'm like, this is nice.
Yeah, I mean, we had like Weston MacArthur on like
Yeah,
Rise and Shed,
yeah, I'm good
and
friends with
yeah,
him.
he's like found more sheds in a season than I've found in my entire life. So, it definitely puts it into perspective. But yeah, like I love double digit days. I think everyone does really.
Oh
When
yeah,
you're in the mountains, I think it's like 0, 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 20. Like you just finally hit the
yeah,
valley, and then
yeah. You got to
and
find that
it's
pocket.
and it can be the same for whitetail. I think depending on like people's setups, like you can have more influence on whitetail shed hunting, especially if you own land.
Mhm.
If you have a big property and you're doing a lot of winter food sources, like you can just be like, hey, we're going to shed hunt on Saturday and
Yeah.
sweep the whole farm and find 40 sheds.
Oh, for sure.
But it's still hard to hit that double digit. Like I'm a big public land shed hunter because our family farms, we don't find many sheds. I found one shed this year on our family farm. Last year, I think I found zero out of my 45 sheds I found last year. Zero of them were off our family farms. So,
Yeah.
to go on a public that's getting pounded by everyone, like an 80-acre public that's getting hit by everyone to find 10 sheds in a day, like
Mhm.
that's pretty special. And so that's where I like those double digit days, man. I've never broke 20. I got 19 once in a
See,
day.
my best day until what was it? It was 2020 or 2021. I can't quite remember. It was 18, and then yeah, 2020 or 2021. I picked up 20. I want to say 26 or 27 sheds in a day, and I was ecstatic. That was out in Wyoming. I felt like a little kid on Christmas.
Oh, for sure.
Couple
And it's
matching
funny.
sets and
Actually, what's the saddest part is, so I found a lot of sheds out of my like whitetail shed hunting group here. I've probably found the most numbers,
mhm,
and it's like all the smallest. Like
yeah,
I have yet to find a 70-inch whitetail shed, and all of my friends that have like I think they spend more time finding specific deer,
mhm,
but they've all found 70-inch sheds, and it's just like, man, I want to find that 70. Like you'd think like the numbers that you like put up, like it should just happen
yeah,
statistically. Like a 70-inch shed's usually like a 155 to 160-inch buck. Like
yeah.
they're not everywhere, but they're out there. Like there's plenty of them. So, but I have four 67-inch 4 points.
Oh, so close.
So close. Well, and that's a big score for a four
That
point.
is,
I mean,
I mean, that's a nice shed for sure.
that would be like a 3x3 for you. So that'd be
Okay.
like a 150 caliber 3x3.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a nice
So
buck.
big heavy bone there. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to find. But I haven't matched any of my big ones up either, which is really sad. I've tried so hard. Like half of the miles I walk every year are trying to match up one big shed.
Dude, there's been years. I'm like one of my favorite sheds. I found have pictures of the buck. I have his left side, and I found him in 2017 or 2018. I still have yet to find his other side. It still haunts me to this day.
Someone else probably picked it up.
I think so. I really think
It
so.
is it like a big one?
He's I've never put a tape to him, but I would probably say he's 70, probably 85, 80, 85 inch
Oof.
muley.
That's getting close to like a 200-inch muley, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
85, so that's
he's probably,
170.
I'd probably say
What's a
he's about
big buck with
190.
like a 20 inches wide is a big mule deer?
No, I'd say that's about average. I'd say like, where that top tier mule deer you're hitting at 26 plus
Yeah, so
inch
so he's
wide.
probably mid 190s if he's symmetrical.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, you could do that. Have you seen the antler tech?
Yeah, I have. I've thought about getting him cloned for sure.
You should get that match set, man. That antler tech
I've
match
thought
up.
about it. I'd love to.
I had those guys on the podcast before. I have a business entrepreneurship podcast, and I had them on, and they're talking about it. And the first mule deer they cloned was like I don't know, it was a huge mule deer. And the first question I asked was like, how is the weight? Because that's the first thing you're going to notice, right?
Yeah.
Because those big antlers, that weight is like what draws you to them.
Hmm.
Just picking them up. And if it's off, like, you're like, this ain't real. Like, this is a
Yeah.
200-inch shed, and it only weighs like, a yearling. Like, something's
Mhm.
not right. But he's like, oh, we weighed it, and they were within 4 ounces of each other.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which like they probably differed 4 ounces anyway.
Dude, I've spent time on their page just like, do I do it? Do I do it?
It's not cheap by
No.
any means, but you gotta. I feel like whenever something like that comes up, I'm always like, okay, how do I make like a really good video that is gonna like go viral and hopefully like pay for this?
Right.
And I don't even have a channel, so it's like
I think if I ended up doing something like that, I would keep the one I found and just have them do a set together on a plaque or something. And it's just a full replica.
to get both sides replicated. Yeah,
Yeah,
they should be able to do it.
I think that's what I would do.
That's more expensive though.
It is.
Yeah, no, it would be cool. It would be cool. There's a lot of companies out there that are doing some stuff like that now. With like, there must have been like a software like revolution where like all of a sudden now everyone had the software to be able to do it. Because there's like 4 or 5 different companies that I can think of that are in that same general space, whether it's like digital copies in case you lose your taxidermy, or like mini muleys we've had on the podcast, so you can get like a miniature one, or the antler tech cloning. I think there's a couple other people that are in that space, but it must be like something like everyone figured it out at once, you know.
I think a lot of it had to do with 3D printing. I think that was a big influence on it. I mean, I'm not sure, but
yeah,
yeah.
And the CAD software for 3D printing, and like to be able to scan something and like make a model of it.
It seemed like as soon as 3D printing got big, a couple years later, these companies started coming out with, we can do this.
Yeah, which is great. I love it. I wish it got cheaper. Like, I hope it gets cheaper so it's more
I think it will.
realistic. Yeah. So I was gonna ask you before, like when you find 20 sheds, how often are you finding like old versus new sheds, or like fresh sheds versus hard whites and chalks? Like out of that 20, are like half of them fresh?
That's a tough one to say. It depends on what area you're at. I've had, days I go out and I've found those double digits where they've been all chalks or hard whites, and I've had days that I've hit those double digits. They've all been brown or a good mixture. But I'd probably say like a 60-40, 60%
fresh.
Hard other way. I mean, it seems like when you're getting those double digits, at least for me, when I'm getting those double digits, I'm finding mostly, those hard whites more than browns.
Yeah, probably something where like you found an area that hadn't been hit for a few years by someone.
Yeah.
And that's why you hit double digits. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously when you're hitting double digits mule deer, it's a lot easier to pack them out than double digit elk.
It's for sure.
It's a lot easier to do that. We find a lot of them on where we antelope hunted in Wyoming for some reason. Like that must have been a winter range spot. I stepped on a 4-point mule deer shed as we were trying to track down my nephew. He made like a mediocre shot on a mule deer, and we're trying to run him down. He was going around he was in the cut. The cut goes around the corner, so I was trying to get up and over and cut him off and get a follow-up shot. And I'm like looking at how to climb out of this little cut. And I'm like, all right, I think we can do it here. And I take one step up, and my nephew's like, oh, hey, look at this. And he picks up a 4-point brown in my boot track. I'm like, oh.
I had one of my buddies, he stepped on one, didn't even realize it. He kept walking. I was like, hey, dude, that thing you just tripped over? No, it was an antler.
Oh, boy. Do you sell antlers or do you keep them all?
I've sold them in the past, and I kind of regret it, in the later after selling them. But I sell the smaller ones for, dog chews and crafts to friends and family and stuff like that, or just give them away to them. But for the most part, I
Yeah.
keep them all.
The small ones are the ones like that like I'm conflicted about. I don't think I'll ever sell big ones, man. Like now, especially that I have a shop, like I could hang thousands of antlers in my
Yeah.
shop till the roof collapses, I suppose.
Yeah.
But the small ones, it's like they're starting to pile up, and I don't know what to do with them. But they also aren't worth that much. Like you have to
Yeah.
sell like 10 small ones to get the same price as one big one. Which
Yeah,
you usually,
for sure.
for me anyway, I find 10 small ones for every big one. But
Yeah.
I've always wanted to start a business. My wife just put a ban on any new business ideas, though, so I can't do it for a while. But I wanted to start a business with my small ones and cutting them up into small bites and selling them to like the rabbit pet community,
Oh yeah. I never
like
thought of
rodents
that.
and rabbits, because they always have to chew to keep their teeth down. And then
Mhm.
like just the law of like economics, like if the smaller you basically sell any quantity, the higher piece price you can get.
Yeah.
Right. So if I sold a whole antler, I could probably sell like what's a yearling whitetail shed worth? Like $5 maybe.
Yeah.
Like
$10
not
on a
much.
good day.
Well, that would be like, isn't it like $12 a pound for
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think it takes like 3 or 4 antlers. I think it takes 3 or 4 small sheds to equal a pound.
Yeah.
So they're probably $3-4.
Yeah.
But if I chop that thing up into 10 pieces and put it in a bag, I could probably sell it for like $14.99 to someone that's got like a bunny as like
Yeah.
a 1 month supply of like treats.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
That's a
And then
great
I'm like,
idea.
oh, I could also I could chop the pedicles off and make like little bone chips, like, the brown things in a bag of
Yeah.
Gardettos that everyone likes the most.
Yeah.
Now they sell the bag of just those. Like I could probably
Yeah.
sell that bag for like, $15 as well. So now I'm making 30, well, not quite 30, but what I mean? I'm like making way more money than this one antler's
Yeah.
worth. And then it's a like reoccurring revenue stuff, because they got to keep eating them. Like dogs don't have to eat antlers. Like the dog chew business, like it's people that like giving their dogs antlers, but they don't have to eat them. The rodents have to keep eating bone to keep their teeth down.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
I
no,
thought it'd
that's
be
a great idea.
Maybe someone will take it for me and I can just sell my antlers to them, or
Yeah, right.
she just doesn't want me to take any more things that take time away from our family,
Yeah.
because I have like 2 podcasts and a side business and a day job.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's understandable though.
so if you want to do that, I'll give you a bunch of whitetail yearlings to launch the business with. I was going to call it Bone Apple Teeth.
That's a great name.
And I was gonna soak them in
awesome.
like apple juice and then like dry them out so they have like an apple scent on them.
Yeah.
So the bunnies just go crazy for these bones, and then their owner's
Yeah.
like, oh, he loves it so much, we gotta buy more.
That's awesome, man.
I thought of the whole
I
thing.
love
It'd be
that.
so much.
I love
Just
that.
have like a little bandsaw.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I started doing with all, little 2-3 inch tine ends and stuff? I started putting them in mason jars with grain stems, and I started selling those as home decor.
Grain stems?
I got one right here. I'll grab one.
Like you like going picking weeds and putting them in a mason jar? Like, what are we Oh, there you go. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find an antler. I got it in my desk drawer, if that tells you anything about how big it is.
I was
This
just
is the
looking for
smallest.
an antler I had.
This is the smallest shed I've ever found.
Yeah.
That sucker is just...
It's teeny.
I found that thing for the folks that are listening, it's a spike that's maybe 3 inches. I found it in the middle of like a CRP field in South Dakota. I just
That's
looked
my
down and I was like,
smallest.
oh wow. Yeah, that's there. But that's what I'm saying. Like you chop that thing up into like 6 pieces, you could sell him as like $10. And you're gonna like your antler buyer would be like, I don't
get
want
it.
that. Like that's when you have your antler buyer and he's got the bathroom scale in the box and it's like 199.9. You're like, oh wait, throw this one in there. 200 pounds. All right.
Yeah.
I have a buddy
That's
that
awesome.
sold enough antlers to buy Swaro binos one year.
That's a good
Yeah.
amount of antlers being sold there.
That's what I was thinking. That could be your goal. Like, hey, I'm gonna stock up browns until I get, I don't know, 100 pounds. And then when I do it, I'm going to get that antler matched up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to sell enough small antlers to get that big one matched up.
Yeah.
So
That's
that'd
a
be
good
cool.
idea.
I've always thought that like whitetails get chewed on a lot because of the tree rats that we've got out here, the squirrels. They like to chew on them. So a lot of times it's just heartbreaking. Someone will find like an 85-inch antler and it's just chewed to smithereens.
Yeah.
And so I thought like that the replica business could go really well, especially if you've got a picture of what the buck used to look like on trail camera or something, to like get not just a matched side, but just to fix the one side you did find.
Yeah. You know that buck I was telling you about that I have the one side from, it was my first shed that I ever found by myself.
Oh
And
boy.
yeah, I got spoiled out. So he was a
I would
city
have just
buck.
quit. I would have just
He was,
retired.
he was a
Hall of
city buck,
Famer.
and he was living behind my house, my old
Oh, really?
house, in a group of trees surrounded by fields, just CRP fields. And I remember going out there one day and seeing him for the very first time. And this was back in the day. I didn't have a phone or anything. No, I did have a phone, but camera had much better. Ran to the house, grabbed my camcorder, ran back up the mountain, got pictures of him. Never saw him again. A couple months later, I went back in there. Just I knew what sheds were, you know.
Yeah.
Walked down into this ravine, started to take a left, and I was like, you know what? I need to turn around and go up the other way. Did it right there, right on the trail.
Wow. Yeah, someone probably found that one.
I
If it
think
was,
so.
yeah. You just knock on doors like, hey, did you find my antler?
Right? I'd pay big money. I really would.
I know of a person that bought a 200 and some, so he had a bunch of sheds from this buck like throughout the years, and this buck was huge. Like he had one shed that was 107 without the spread. That's
Wow.
the shed scored 107. Yeah.
Wow.
And he had like a match, like 2 matches, and then the one side, and then the other side the next year, and then the buck died. And the buck died on the neighbor's property in like the middle of a cattail, like frozen swamp or like a frozen pond, but out on the ice. So he could see it. He's like, that monster's like dead right there.
Yeah.
And so he knocked on the neighbor's door and was like, hey, this buck died. You know, I've been chasing him for a while. You know, can I go, you know, can I pay you to go take, you know, get his antlers from it, the pile, you know? And the farmer's like, yeah, I don't know, what's it worth to you? And he's like, I don't know, $500. And he's like, all right, sure. Sold him. It's like a deadhead that scores like 220 something.
That's crazy.
It's like the best deal ever, man. Like that was so cheap.
I can't even fathom. Like I've 220-inch whitetail.
The thing was massive. It was.
I'm trying
massive.
to picture that right now, and
It
I
was.
can't.
It had tines. It was. I mean, it was like a 16 by 16.
Oh wow.
It had tines
So,
everywhere.
everywhere.
It was crazy.
That's
Yeah,
kind of what I
was
was picturing. I'm not gonna
a
lie.
big non-typical, yeah. But for $200, yeah, or to $500, it was crazy.
This is the only whitetail shed I have. I bought that one.
Oh, I was gonna say that's a toad. Where'd you get that one
Yeah.
from? But
I thought it was cool. Antler buyer, I was selling him one of my sheds or one of my sets, and he was like, how much you want for that? That one's kind of cool. I can't remember how much I got it for, but it was a screaming deal.
yeah, well, they
don't
don't
know.
weigh much. Like
I don't even know
that
what
shed
that one
probably
scores.
weighs like that shed probably weighs less than 3 pounds.
I'm gonna say about 4. He's really heavy in the front end.
Yeah, but I think it's deceiving because I have
I
one
think.
that I have this big 8-pointer here. I'll go grab it quick. I finally have a long enough cord on my headset that I can walk around. So I have this 8-pointer, and this button, the button on this 8-pointer is bigger than 5-point raghorns that I've gotten. Like I can't even wrap my fingers around his pedicle. This
That
thing
one's
is.
about how that one is there.
Well, I have big hands. I don't know about you.
That's fair. A little guy.
I'm 6'2". I got huge mitts, and so this shed. I mean, I can do the mass measurement right here, but this pedicle is almost 6 inches around his
Yeah, I'm gonna
base.
say this one's about 4.5, 4 and a
Yeah,
half inches.
So this, I'm not saying that's a small antler. I'm just saying I'm like, oh my God, this thing's gonna weigh like 5 pounds. I weighed it and it was 2.25.
Oh,
Like
really?
I weighed it with a food scale. Yeah, so they're deceiving. Like when you hold them,
Yeah,
they're
it must
like
be.
they aren't as heavy as you think. And so like even if that is 4 pounds, like that's $48
Yeah.
if you're buying it on poundage. Now that shed, can you hold it up again?
You want straight side? Probably about there.
No, that's fine. That shed's probably, I can't see his fourths though, or his fifths.
Oh,
But I would guess that shed, I mean, I've found sheds like that. I got one that's not quite as big as that went 68. So I'm probably guessing that one is 70, probably somewhere between 72 and 75 inches. Like that's a hammer.
that's
so
what I was thinking he told me was 70 to 80 in that ballpark is what he told me.
So he'd probably start going, like 70 is the bare minimum to start selling a whitetail shed based on size instead of weight.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd start to sell that one just as like a 75-inch 6x6.
Yeah.
And,
I just thought it looked cool.
You should be, yeah. It is a cool buck. I would love to pick one up like that.
I'd love to pick up a whitetail shed.
Well, you come out, you beat me halfway in North Dakota. I got some spots.
All right.
I got one of the spots I went to, I found 20 in a weekend. I found 12 and then 8, I think, or 8 and then 12 on public. And then I went back last year. I found 10 in a weekend. I went a little too early last year, though. I had a lot of bucks that were still holding. So I want to go again this year. It's all public. I sleep in the backseat of my truck because it's usually just me and the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been cold as it gets. I mean, the first year was 15 below camping. The next year was like 12 below camping. Now that like things are a little more stable, I go for a hotel when it's going to be that cold.
Right.
But for a while, I'm like, man, I'm spending like all the extra money I want to be spending this weekend on this trip, just getting there. I'm going to camp, make it cheap. You know, I was saving up for a ring and a wedding, and I'm like, I'm going to do this bare bones. But now I might, especially if my wife comes with me, I don't think she's going to want to camp at 15 below. Like she's a backpacker, but she doesn't like being that cold. And she doesn't have like cold weather sleeping gear like I do.
Yeah, this last year, me and my dad, we went to Wyoming to go shed hunting. First trip we'd ever done together. I'm like, how you want to do this? Tent or what? And he's like, let's get a hotel room. I was like, you're older and wiser than me, huh? All right, we can get a hotel room.
He's got that extra cash. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be the hotel room for especially shed hunting, because you're done as soon as it's dark. You know, and hunting, it's like you don't have to be there. You don't have to be there before sunrises. Like I usually try to get there like as soon as it gets light, so we maximize the day. But like you don't have to be there 3 hours before dark.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to. As soon as you're done, like you're probably making your trip back anyway. Like you're hunting your way out. It's not like you're 3 miles back when the sun goes down on a bull, and now you got to walk out for 2 hours in the dark. Yeah. And the days are shorter. I guess for you, not because Wyoming doesn't open till May, so you're almost at the longest days of the year. But when I'm doing it in February in North Dakota, those are some pretty short days. So it gets dark at 6. You're like, all right, what am I gonna do for 4 hours? Like we'll go back to the hotel, take a shower, go find a burger, and some French fries. Yeah,
it's exactly what we did too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty fun. That is pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie, and it'd be the place that I'm thinking of would be a great spot to have like a shed camp. Yeah. And I don't really care anymore because I don't live there. Like if I can get back once a year, that's phenomenal. It was already like when I lived in North Dakota, it was still 4 hours away. Now it's 8 hours away. So it's not like it's my spot anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Well, for you, it's going to be like 18 hours away.
Yeah.
You might as well just fly. He'll pick you up at the airport.
If we did that, I probably would in all reality.
Yeah. Meet me at this airport at noon. I'll pick you up and we'll go from there. It'll still be 4 hours, but
yeah, right.
So when you went to Wyoming, first of all, have you ever done the Jackson Hole hunt?
I haven't.
Oh, it's really close to you, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Wyoming just, about an hour away from me. I'm just on the other side of the mountains in Idaho. Yeah,
that's okay. I don't really feel like getting trampled by a bunch of horses either.
It's kind of how I feel about it. I don't want to race people up the mountain to find.
Well, you're never going to beat the horse.
That too.
Well, I mean, to be like, if they made that no horses, it would piss off everyone that
Had a
goes,
horse.
which is like everyone,
Yeah.
right? But it would make it like so much better, like so much better for everyone. Like it would really improve.
Yeah, I would agree. I just
Because,
don't want
like,
to.
right now,
I don't want to be stressed out trying to beat people. I just want to enjoy my time and find some sheds. You know.
Yeah, like you exactly. So I had some thoughts about the Jackson thing. First of all, one idea could be get rid of the horses. Everyone's on foot. Maybe make multiple gates so it's not like 1,000 people running through the one gate. You know, that could be an idea. I can see how that would piss off a lot of people because like when there's 200 horses, like what? Like
Can't beat
I
it.
might as well wait until like 3 days from now and then just walk in by myself and just try to get farther back in and sleep in there and then like shed hunt the next day. The other thing I thought about here, 2 different ideas. The one I like the most is probably like make it not like close it down. It's not public anymore. There's 100 tickets.
Yeah.
And we raffle them off at the Western Hunt Expo, and all the money goes towards like winter range funding.
Yeah.
It's like it's already a rich man's game when it's a bunch of $100,000 trucks pulling $1 million horse trailers. So you might if it's,
how much
already
those
there,
would go for?
oh, thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah,
maybe
Easily.
more. I don't know. I mean, especially if you made it like 20. Like you could honestly do some math. Be like, okay, if we do 100, like if you did 1,000, you're only going to get like $500 a piece, or less. If you did 100, you might get like $2,000 a piece. If you did like 20, like week 1 pass, like do it like a tag, like auction it off like a tag.
Yeah.
Like a 5-day tag in season 1, we're getting rid of 20 of them. You're probably getting like $10,000 a pop.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the numbers I was thinking was like 8 to 12 grand.
Mule pack, like a pack train. It's going to be like a guy and 4 mules.
Yeah.
He's going to go in there, spend a week, and pull out like 500 pounds of antlers.
Yeah. Make his
and
money
he's
back.
Make money. Yeah, he's going to make his money back. I don't know. That could be one option. Or just do it like lottery. Like say, hey, there's 100 of them, and we're just going to lottery them off.
Yeah. I have a tough one with all that. Just the regulations and stuff.
I don't like the regulations either.
You don't either?
No, I don't. I mean, I get the ones this last season in a way.
Yeah.
I do. I like when the winter was as bad as it was for them to say like, hey guys, we're gonna wait an extra month.
Yeah.
Like
I
these
agree.
animals are
I agree with that.
Walking death. So I agree with that one. What I don't like is when they're like, oh, residents get to go this day, non-residents don't. That one kind of rubs me the wrong way. And it's just because it's like, it's our land.
Yeah.
It's everyone in the country's
the people's land.
Right. It's federal. A lot of it's federal land. I mean, if it's state land, it's state land. Federal land. I know that the states control the animals, but what bothers me about it isn't really like any one issue. It's the, like, when it comes to battling public land transfer, like anti-hunting organizations, all this other stuff, right? Then the Western states turn around and be like, hey, all you guys in the East, we need your help. We need your votes. You know, you're all the Missouri River or the Mississippi River Valley is the dominant area of hunters, right? It's whitetail hunters from the Mississippi River Valley. Like if there's 10 million hunters, 7 million of them live in that are whitetail hunters from the Mississippi River Valley states. So like Minnesota to Texas, right? And so it's like they need our votes to win all these battles. Yet when it comes time to hunt, they tell us, "Oh, we don't want to see your plates at the trailhead. We're going to go out first. We're going to charge you 40 times more for a tag." And then we just get like crapped on the entire time as a non-resident or an out-of-stater. It's, like the plate thing is just wild. Of like people will hate on you because you have a Minnesota plate on an Idaho or a Montana trailhead, right? And it's like. Like you guys want our help when you're about to lose this opportunity, and then as soon as we win it for you or like help you, you like turn around and tell us we can't come and shed hunt or we can't, So that's what bothers me about the regulations, some of the shed regulations I saw, because like Wyoming just did that. They just said non-residents can't hunt for like the first week.
I'm not talking crap here, but Wyoming people, man, they make me nervous sometimes. Like, there's been times I've been worried about my vehicle. Like, they're kind of crazy about it.
About like the trailheads?
Just like
or like seeing out-of-state
non-resident,
plates.
non-residents going to Wyoming shed hunting.
Well, I think like at least when you have an Idaho plate, you're not like they don't hate you as much.
Yeah.
What really boils their blood is Minnesota and Washington
I'm sure.
plates.
I could see that.
Or California, Minnesota, and Washington are the like
I
you
could
get
see
hate
that.
on no matter where you go. I just did a Idaho, so like Idaho's general tags went for sale just recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a post. We have a bonus series on this podcast, and before every application deadline, I do a bonus series. It's like 15 minutes. I'm just like, hey, next week deadline's coming up. Here's what you got to know. Here's how it's gonna work. And I post them, and then I make clips and I put them on TikTok. And one of them went viral, and it had like, I don't know, 5,000 likes. So 5,000 people liked it. It had like 200 comments, and every single one of them was an Idaho resident that's telling me like, don't tell people this. Why would you say this? You're wrecking hunting. And I'm like, you're a resident of Idaho. Like, you should know that there's a limit. There's a specific number of non-resident tags that can be sold. And whether I tell someone that they're going on sale or they find out on their own, like, there is no more people going to your unit. Either way. Like, they're going to sell out either way. And there's only like, I'm not the reason you can't hunt your spot anymore.
Yeah.
Like, those people are going to be there either way. It's just, I'm helping someone that really wants to go know, like, hey, you should sign it at 9:30, not 10.
Yeah.
That's the only difference I did.
I personally
and they just
don't have a
reamed
problem
me.
with non-resident hunters. I constantly hear people, oh, they need to stay in their stay. This is my land, I think everyone needs to get out and enjoy the outdoors and venture off into new woods. That's my
That's
opinion
the thing
on
is,
it.
that's what I find when I talk to people on the podcast, and like just the people I like am around, they're all the same. Like, I love when people hunt. Like, let's go hunt.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know who the people are. I would really love to see, like, out of all those negative comments that like in some way or form said that I'm wrecking their Idaho hunting experience, I want to know how many of them actually hunt.
Yeah.
It's like, you haven't hunted in 20 years, and it's not because of the people. It's because you don't buy a tag. You're busy. You work weekends. I don't know what it is, but I bet a majority of them don't even hunt anymore.
I could see that.
Yeah, because everyone that I've talked to that's a diehard hunter is like, I don't care. I live here. Like, you're gonna go to the first trailhead you see as a non-resident, and that spot's not good. I've already checked that spot out. I'm gonna go somewhere else that I've been scouting all summer long and still get my bull. And it's the way. I mean, I get it. We have non-residents in Minnesota. We don't charge them. Like, Montana is the famous case where it's like a resident's $20 to go elk hunting and a non-resident's $8.50. Like, it's 40 times more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I think that's.
I've been looking at going to Texas and going axis deer hunting.
I thought you meant like as a resident.
No.
Okay.
I'm sitting here adding stuff up. I'm like, man.
As a not like, instead of going like elk hunting in some other state.
Yeah. Axis deer, dude. That's my dream animal there.
Well, it seems like it's pretty attainable. Like, I feel like you could cross that dream off this year.
Oh yeah, I could. It's money though, man. It gets expensive just being non-resident and having to pay for all that stuff.
Well, is axis deer a game animal in Texas?
No.
It's all. So it doesn't matter if you're a resident or not.
Yeah. I guess as far as that goes, yeah.
Yeah, the ranch. The ranch is the problem, not the resident.
Yeah, the ranch.
Yeah, I suppose it's probably a couple $1,000.
It's saying, oh yeah, I'm a couple thousand.
So this is a real side tangent. We started talking about shed hunting. But what boggles my mind is, like, you always hear about the hog problem in the South, right? Like, all these wild pigs are just wrecking everything. Yeah. And so I'm thinking, like, I'd love to go shoot some wild pigs, help out,
Oh, yeah.
So I start looking up stuff. It's like, $1,000 to shoot a wild. I'm like, I thought you guys had a wild pig problem. Why are you charging $1,000 to come shoot one? I want to go to the ranch where they're like, hey, we need people with guns. If you have a gun, come here and shoot a pig.
Come here. Yeah, right. Me too.
It's like, where? I thought this was like a national emergency here. You guys are charging $1,000 for one trophy pig.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'd pay some money. I don't know. You've probably seen the videos to hang out of a helicopter. I'd pay some money for that. That looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's $850 an hour.
I know.
I happen to know. The buddy that used to host this before he gave it to me, he did that once. Yeah. He did like a partnership deal where he like promoted it, and they did like a swap. And he said it was crazy, just crazy. He had like a fully automatic gun. Yeah. I don't know if his was fully automatic or not. He said it was a lot of rounds, but yeah. that looks fun. I just want to do the ones where you're like at night and there's a whole herd of them and you're just like,
Yep.
just picking them off as they're running and they don't know where to go in the dark. But I want to eat them. That's I
would
that,
too.
like, if I'm gonna do it, I want to shoot ones that are like supposed to taste good because I actually want like the meat.
Yeah.
I don't want to just shoot a bunch of them and let them lie.
Yeah.
I want to shoot one
I
big
hear
one
you.
for the head.
Mm.
And then that one's probably not going to taste good. That's going to probably turn into some like 2-day stew. Like cook it for like 2 days until it's tender. But
Yeah.
the rest of them, I just want to shoot like little 100-pounders that are going to taste really good.
I've always wondered how much better they would taste. They've got to taste better, you would think, than like
Well,
your store stuff.
Jesse Griffiths is a wild game chef, and he started a restaurant in Austin that like predominantly serves dishes with wild hog.
Oh,
Like
really?
he has ranches that, he obviously he's done all of his research. He does it legally and USDA, everything. But yeah, it's typically like wild pigs are like a huge portion of his menu. And he like part of his thing is like, we're not going to get rid of this problem until we like assign a value to a wild pig and like teach people that they taste good and they're like out there anywhere. Just go shoot one.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he says like, yeah, there's things you can do, but he's like, I can make any pig taste good. Like if it's a big old boar, I just cook it differently, like accordingly.
Preparation,
like,
slow
cook it, season it, keep
any
it cold.
meat.
Right, yeah. I mean, you gut shoot one and leave it lie in the sun, but like if you shoot
preparation.
Antelope and if you run an antelope down with your truck, it's not going to taste good either if pumped full of adrenaline.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, no, it's all about how you taste it. But that's the funny thing about like sheds is like it's one of those things where you can do endlessly. There's no limits. That's one regulation I would hate. Like I've seen TikTokers and like content creators make funny videos like shed hunting in 2016. It's like, well, I punched my like 2062 shed tag this year on this. You only get one nowadays. But yeah, you can do as many as you want. You don't have to worry about prep or like keeping them safe or like it's kind of like. It's not really hunting, it's gathering, but you don't have to worry about the food aspect of like, not wasting a shed antler. Like, so I like it that way. And it also gives me like, a shed like this, for example, like I wouldn't look at this deer twice if I was hunting.
Oh, yeah.
But it's cool to find the shed or like any of the little forks that you find. Like when you're hunting, you're like, oh, buck, whatever. But you never like, you don't get that much excitement out of that animal. But when you pick up a fork shed, you get like way more excitement.
Oh, yeah. I think that's why I'm so addicted to it. Because like hunting, I mean, it's full of ups and downs, just like shed hunting. But you only get that adrenaline spike, that one time.
Yeah.
With shed hunting, it's every time you pick up a shed. It's addictive.
Or every time you see a tine. Like you could have seen this sticking out and you could be like, oh, that's like the tip of his fifth. Right?
Yeah, right.
And then you pull it out and you're like, oh, never mind.
Or not.
Our camera guy that we went to New Mexico with, he was like running the camera, so he wasn't really shed hunting. And so he hadn't found any sheds. And so we're like, hey, we got to get Chris a shed. Like we got to find one. So he's on the phone for like an hour or something, half hour with his for work. Walking around and he turns around like they've been sitting in the spot for a while eating a sandwich and he's been on the phone call. He turns around, he's like, oh, hey, there's a shed. And then he goes back to talk and it was buried. And so all they saw was like, it was literally like this much sticking out, like like your two fingers. And they thought it was like a seventh of a hammer, right? Just buried. And so they're all excited. He finally ends his call. They start digging it up. They think it's going to be this monster. It was the world's smallest 4x4. Like it was a 4x4. It was a 4-point elk shed that was maybe 12 inches long.
Wow. Yeah,
and it had all 4 little points. Yeah, it looked like a Coos elk.
So when I find stuff like that, I'm wondering like, is this an animal with really great genes? Or is he just going to be a freak when he gets older? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, like if that was if he should have been a spike, probably would have been a good like he had the same number of inches as a spike. It's just like take your spike bull and cut the last 2 inches off 3 times and then glue them back on, and that's what you know what I mean? Like it was the same total amount of bone. But no, it was pretty funny. I wanted to ask you you did the Wyoming trip with your dad. You said it was for the first time. Like, did you just throw a dart at the map and be like, here's the area where there's deer in the summer, and then like you like draw a line between the the high ground and the low ground, and you're like, there's ways you can find out where the winter ranges are. You just pick one and go for it?
I mean, So that was my first trip with my dad. I've been to Wyoming dozens of times.
Okay.
So I kind of have some spots, but and
Well, like if
have
you're
you ever,
gonna go the first time, do you just
yeah.
is that kind of how you start? It's like pick a winter range next to a summer range and try it, and then go low, go high, try to find the elevation band, but just pick a spot and go, or is there like more to it than that?
For me, have you ever shed hunted Wyoming?
No, I've hunted
No.
Wyoming and found sheds.
Okay.
I want to.
Wyoming,
Like, it's on my
Wyoming
list.
is a different breed. At least it seems like I kind of just pick a spot and go. It seems like everywhere I went, I found sheds. It's different out there, man.
Well, that seems exactly like just pick a spot and go.
Yeah, pick a spot and go. That's exactly
Okay.
what I do.
So it's not that hard. Like, you might not find the gold mine of like 400-inch browns, but because that's the worry. It's like, man, am I going to drive 800 miles out here and spend 4 days and not find a single antler?
Yeah.
'Cause no one wants to do that.
Yeah. I
think
it's just to pick a spot and go when it comes to Wyoming, honestly.
Is that the same for like Montana? Like, obviously, if you're looking for like elk, you got to be next to like some elk summer range. So like you got to have some black timber somewhere, or like Idaho, like do a little.
I've never shed hunted Montana, but I would assume it's a lot like Idaho. I'm looking for at certain elevations. Say we're saying elk, I'm looking about that 7,500 elevation foot range, south slopes, and obviously if you can get out there and see what is out there, that's always better. But EMAPs, man, that's going to be your best bet.
Right. So just there's tons of resources out there where you can like look up where animals in the West winter, like the winter ranges. You're kind of saying just like pick one that's got some options for like elevation. So if it's like heavy snow, you can maybe go a little bit lower. If it's light snow, you can go higher.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of public, and just go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, my favorite words when people are asking me questions on, how do I, where do I go to find an antler? Obviously you got all your little tips, south facing slopes and all that. I think it comes down to just everywhere and anywhere.
Well, that in Minnesota, it's hard because like that's not the case. Like you could like look at some ground and be like, "Oh, this is beautiful ground," and there isn't a shed on this.
Yeah, I mean, you got your
you really have
zones,
to scout because everything is so fat. Like, well, everything is so uniform here. Like, there is no ups.
They're constantly moving around.
Like, I don't even have hills. Like, I don't have a south-facing slope anywhere near my house.
Yeah.
It's just all. My entire 40-acre farm changes like 8 feet.
Oh wow.
So it's like it's finding food and signs. So
yeah,
it's a little different, but it's not hard.
Sure.
Like just go do it. Do it a couple times, you'll get better each time.
Yep.
That's kind of the key. It sounds like. Awesome.
Yeah,
well, Justin,
time is your friend.
Yeah, time is your friend. I don't want to cut us off. Speaking of time is our friend, but I do have a podcast starting in a minute, and Dave already called in, so we'll have to stop this one, and we'll have to do another one after shed season and talk about all of the mishaps that went on around this season.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All the cool stories. Cool. Well, it's been great talking to you. It's been great having you here.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here, and thank you for listening, folks.